Hello and welcome to the Cassette Deck Podcast. And today we will be reviewing the Foo Fighters sophomore album, The Colour and the Shape, which dropped in the grand year of 1997. It was the first album to include band members Nate Mendel, Pat Smear, and Dave Goldsmith. Dave Goldsmith would later be fired in the middle of recording of the album. I believe he only appears on 2 tracks. The rest of the tracks, I believe, were recorded by Dave Grohl, and Dave told Dave that if he wanted to stay in the band and play his parts that he could. Dave didn't want to do that, so he was out of the band. An actual cool story about the name of The Colour and the Shape. I always wondered where the obscure title came from, and it was the tour manager used to like to go thrift store shopping, and he ended up finding an old bowling pin in some thrift store and picked it up and said that he liked the color and the shape. They all laughed about it and decided it'd be a cool, obscure album title. The album itself starts out with a really super soft, super short song called Doll. It's actually one of my favorites on the album. I wish it were a little bit longer. If they would have added like one more chorus, maybe one more verse, I would have loved it. The song is awesome. It's a good opener, a good soft opener to set the tone to where it's almost like when you make a mixtape. You want to start it out with a solid opener. Don't start too high. That way you have room to build. And from there, it goes from super soft song Doll to Monkey Wrench. Monkey Wrench is like the yin and the yang to Doll. The softness of Doll and the hardest of Monkey Wrench. And it is a great song. One of my first songs I remember coming off the album. I vaguely remember watching the video for Monkey Wrench on the old MTV back when it was music television, and remembered how crazy it was, and always loved the part where he starts singing I guess it would be the bridge of the One Last Thing Before I Quit, and says it all in that one breath. And then at the end of it in the video, he says it all, screams, and then spits on the camera. And I just thought that was the coolest. But I was only like 14 years old, so things that were cool, you didn't have to impress me much. Right after Monkey Wrench comes Hey Johnny Park. And fun fact, Johnny Park was a real friend of Dave Grohl. I believe from the ages of 7 to 12. And it's really cool to give your old childhood friend a shout out on a track title. One of my favorite lines from the song is, "Eyes that can change from blind to blue." I just always thought that was a really cool standout lyric. After Hey Johnny Park, you have My Poor Brain, which almost in the beginning gives you a Nirvana feel, and it has the same up-down tempo during the album it has during the songs, where it starts out loud, and then it gets like whisper quiet, then it gets super loud again. Love the dynamics of the song. It's a decent listen. Wind Up is a song about celebrities, musicians, all complaining about not realizing how fortunate they really are, about how can you complain when you have it all. The song Up in Arms starts as a slow ballad, then turns into like an upbeat, almost pop punk song. I like it, but the way Dave Grohl says girl in this song, it just doesn't seem right. It seems really forced. After Up in Arms comes the song My Hero, which is instantly identifiable by the drum and the bass intro. It has to be up there with one of the best intros of all time. I'm a fan of the song, but even a bigger fan of the acoustic version that was on the Skin and Bones album. I might review that one at some time. That album was the same way. Like, you could play that thing first track to last track, and every bit of it is good. My Hero is followed by the track See You. And I myself feel like this track, it kind of doesn't fit, but it does fit at the same time. I also like how dated the lyric, "These notes are marked return to sender." If you asked any kid under the age of 15 what that meant, they would all give you a dead stare and not know what the hell you're talking about. I also love there's a little breakdown in the middle where they all start clapping and applauding. There's, I think, a little break between the music, and then it starts back again. And for some reason, I always like that little space. And speaking of space, the next song on the album is Enough Space. I love Dave's vocals on this one, and didn't really remember him screaming so much in this album, or at all in the beginning of the Foo Fighters. I honestly thought it was something that he started doing in the later albums. I didn't really remember him doing it before, but now I go back and I'm like, he's been doing this the whole time, and his screaming is still awesome. It's another heavy song on the album to really balance it out with the up-down, light and heavy vibe they have going for the whole thing. And it even has like another little Nirvana-esque, and I hate to keep saying it, breakdown in the middle of the song. It doesn't last that long, but it pops its little head up in there. After that comes the track February Stars, which at first, it's another song I really didn't like to begin with, but it just really, really, really grew on me the older I got. The way it just starts out with a super low type whisper lyrics. Like if you're listening to it on CD, you almost have to raise the volume up a little bit to even hear it. And then out of nowhere, the chorus hits you full blast with the February Stars. And you instantly have to turn it way back down because it comes in full force. Love the dynamic soft loud combo again. Love how it just fits on this record. Always love the lyric, if you ask for walls, I'll build them higher. Like when you're in a relationship and, you just keep protecting yourself till all of a sudden you're just encased in these walls that you can't get out of and they can't break back through them. And then comes the Foo Fighters' most identifiable song, Everlong, which at first wasn't really that big of a hit. I also remember seeing this video on MTV and thought it was really cool with the dream sequences. And at one point, Dave gets these huge hands and just starts slapping Pat Smear and Nate Mendel. It's really funny. Also, the female background vocals were recorded over the phone. They just took the phone, put it to a microphone, and she sang. And then they put it on the album. And it sounds really good. I like the kind of lo-fi sound it gets. And then as loud as Everlong was, you need something to bounce it out. And what that is Walking After You. One of my favorite hidden gems of this album. I love this song. And to me, it's just like the song says, if you walk out on me, I'm walking after you. Meaning, if you walk out, I'm still going to fight for you because I love you and I'm just not going to let you go that easy. New Way Home cranks the volume up a little bit from Walking After You and has this really cool, like whisper quiet vocals that just keep building up and building up and building up. One of the lines I really love from this song is, I love the leash that holds me when I try to run away. I just think that's really deep, like almost like being trapped in a relationship, like you really want to go, but you're bound by something. And as soft as this album opening was with the song Doll, the color and the shape ends it with just craziness. Another Nirvana-esque, almost like Aneurysm feel. Love Dave's vocals on this one. Love his scream. Love his tone. And love how it's just a really good track to tie up the whole album. Overall, a great album. Definitely in my top 10. Definitely good, start to finish. I could listen to this thing over and over again. It was a love-hate relationship in the beginning, but I've really grown to love this album. I really hope you've enjoyed this album review, and if you haven't, go check out Foo Fighters' Color and the Shape again. It'll bring back those old nostalgia feels. And to keep in touch with me between podcasts and to give me ideas of some albums you'd like reviewed, you can follow me at Cassette Deck Pod on Twitter, at Cassette Deck Chronicles on Instagram, And if you want to send me an old-fashioned email about this podcast or podcast I'll do later, you can email me at cassettedeckpod@gmail.com. And if you have any comments or fun facts, email those to me, and I will share them on the next podcast. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and tune in for more. Thank you from the Cassette Deck Chronicles.